Hello, my name is Laura Merritt. I'm with AOE, and I'm here to talk with you today about protecting and building your brand. We're going to touch on the 7 marketing trends that we're seeing in 2024, and these range from protecting the brand in a crisis to digital advertising, the continued focus on sustainability, artificial intelligence, and the power of social media. So the construction industry in particular is facing multiple challenges this year. And as you can see here, we're looking at an increasingly competitive market, evolving media platforms, again, the focus on sustainability, navigating technology like AI, and crises. So let's talk about protecting your brand in the crisis. So what is a crisis? A crisis is a sudden and unexpected disruption that interrupts your normal business operations. It requires immediate response. It is likely to also require the highest level of the company to take decision-making actions. It involves notifications to organizations and other parties outside yours, and it has the potential to attract media. So here are some crisis examples. As you can see, they range quite a bit, looking at natural disasters, job site accidents, layoffs, the pandemic, which we all know firsthand, and then also AI risks, which we will talk about a little bit more. But first, I want to talk about the stages of the crisis communications. So we've got pre-crisis. That's the first stage. This is where you're monitoring those risks. You're keeping an eye out, paying attention to what you're hearing around you. It may not even involve you directly. It can involve a competitor, but if they're dealing with a crisis, it could bleed over to your organization. So these are things to be watching for. You want to make decisions about how you're going to handle that risk, and then train people who are going to be involved. And then lastly, conduct mock crisis scenarios. The second stage is the crisis itself, and this is where you're collecting and processing information for your team to be making those decisions. This happens very quickly, and it's very important that you are making sure the information that you're receiving is accurate. You also are using this time to create and disseminate crisis messages. A good idea is during a pre-crisis stage, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but create templates for your messaging and have those done during your pre-crisis stage. So when you're in the crisis and you don't have a lot of time to start a message from scratch, you can pull out one of those templates, plug in the new information, and you're ready to go. The third stage is post-crisis. And this is really where you're evaluating how you did. Were there areas for improvement? This is also the time when you're going to be following up your crisis messaging as needed. So talking about crisis communications, and basically giving you an overview, the idea is to develop the plan not in the time of the crisis. You want to do that during the pre-crisis stage. Today is a great time to start on that. You start with a kickoff meeting, and that's where you discuss what a crisis is. What are the likely crises that could hit your organization, and what the appropriate responses would be. You identify your crisis communications team, and this is very important. These are the folks who are going to be managing the crisis and getting your organization through it. You want to finalize your action plan, and this involves the key messages, how you're going to respond. Again, we talked about you're going to be discussing that in a kickoff meeting. Education of employees, this is very important. Make sure that they understand the corporate policy when speaking to media. So especially in a crisis, you don't want an employee walking out their front door and all of a sudden there's a camera and a microphone in their face. How do they deal with it? So this is where they need to understand exactly what they're supposed to do in those situations. And lastly, practice, practice, practice. So schedule those periodic mock crisis scenarios with your crisis team. All right, designating that crisis team, it should include a diverse group from different entities within your organization. So it would include leadership for sure, senior communications, important to have them involved, HR, perhaps IT, perhaps you need a legal presence on your team, and identify who your spokespeople will be. The team needs to really be familiar with your organization's values. You also need to consider who's going to be crafting the crisis messaging. Again, hopefully you have those templates in place, so a lot of the work has already been done. But this is really a collaborative effort between the spokesperson, the communications team, and the leadership. You also want to consider the assets that you may want to incorporate. Statements. Do you want to have a press conference? It may or may not be a good idea. Internal communications and social media posts. Also, make sure that you're monitoring media, and that includes social as well as traditional. All right, putting together the plan. These are the questions you should consider as you're putting it together. What are the procedures for emergency crisis meetings? How often will you meet in a crisis? Will you meet 3 times a day? Once a day, once every hour? That is up to you and will be dependent on the crisis. So you also need to decide who needs to be briefed during a crisis and how often. Who needs permission to get things done? What's the chain of command? And we need to put together a list of all the crisis team members and their contact information. And that includes home phone, cell phone, email, however you need to reach them. You want to be able to do that no matter what form you use. So it's also important that you have people available pretty much 24/7. It may not be the entire team, but you need to work that out with your team, who is going to be managing at a specific time. So again, 24/7. All right, the message itself. So it's really important to bring the focus on how your organization conducts business. So you want to make sure that folks understand, yes, we're in a crisis, but we are, working to ensure that our business is operating fully and that our customers are receiving the support they need, for example. You need to be thoughtful in your word choice. You need to be sensitive, especially in a case where there may be an injury or even worse. Be careful about what you're saying, but also be confident in what you're saying. Be strategic, no matter what the crisis. Stay on track with your approach and your tone, and think through before you make any statements. A strategically penned letter, and this can be an email, is really a great way to set that effective first impression. More on the message. 4 critical elements that really every communication needs to include, and that's empathy, actions, cooperative efforts, and resolve. So remember, this message is about your members, your customers, your employees, your vendors, your community, and their understanding of the issue and how your actions are going to impact them. Make sure that your focus is on them. Important point here, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Be transparent. Doesn't mean you have to divulge everything. You may not be able to. Either you don't have all the facts, or maybe there is some sort of official investigation going on and you're not permitted to share all the details, but you communicate that. While we're in the middle of this crisis, we are unable to provide you with more details due to a pending investigation. We will communicate with you and update you as soon as we possibly can. Something along those lines will work. Make sure that your information is centralized so your entire team can access it quickly. Do not delete any of your information. Very important that you keep basically a record of everything that you are putting together, all of your messaging. And then post clear updates. Okay, again, don't delete the old ones. Just keep sharing those updates. You might want to set up maybe a microsite or a landing page specifically for the crisis. This is a great tool to provide to media. And that gets them going to that site and getting the updates instead of constantly calling you or your spokesperson. So those are some key things to remember when crafting your messaging. Here is a sample statement for all employees. And what's really great about this is, if you notice, they're talking about their main priority is the safety and well-being of employees. That's very important to have that very high up in the message. They also say, again, here's an example. We don't have the facts, but when we get them, we're going to make sure that we share them. So this is another point also here when you talk about, as a reminder, it is corporate policy. Employees do not speak with the media unless granted prior permission, and provide the employees with who, the name of the person that they should be referring media to. All right, important to think about these three things in your key messaging. Safety. Stress your superb safety record and dedication to safety concepts for sure. This is important, very important too. Your employees are watching. Pay attention to, how they're responding to the crisis, and you show concern for them. Again, that previous example, that's their priority. So especially if an employee is injured or fatality occurs, it's really important that you convey that concern for the employer, the family, and your dedication to determining the cause. And then lastly, quality. Focus on those key things that emphasize the quality of your organization, your adherence to R&D, testing, etc. Okay, final thoughts on crises. It's not if a crisis will happen, it's when. And understand one size does not fit all here. There could be a natural disaster in one community, and different organizations are going to need to respond differently. We understand that at AOE, we've worked with organizations in these situations. Now, during a crisis is not the time to change your culture or introduce new values or ideas. It will seem out of place. All right, trend number 2, I touched on this a little bit earlier, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality. So here's what we want to touch on with AR, VR, and AI in 2024. AI is transforming how we do business. It's revolutionizing the interactions we're having with our customers and clients. It's AI-powered tools like chatbots, predictive analytics. These are going to become more widespread this year. And augmented reality and virtual reality can help create immersive brand storytelling and customer engagement opportunities. Think about a virtual plant tour, for example. What is artificial intelligence? It's the science of making machines smart. It's revolutionizing the construction industry through efficiency, safety. It's also involving the application of advanced technologies like machine learning, data analytics. And it's important to understand you don't have to become a machine learning engineer or data scientist to take advantage of what AI can do. You just need to understand that it's possible. So what are AR and VR? The simple way to explain it is AR overlays digital information onto a physical world, typically through devices like smartphones, tablets, for example. It blends digital elements with the user's real-world environment. if you have heard of Pokemon Go, you would understand this is an example of AR. Another one is overlaying directions onto the physical map. So these are examples of what AR is. Now, VR, on the other hand, it immerses you into a completely simulated environment. And this is using headsets or goggles, like this little drawing you see here. VR technology, it replaces the user's physical surroundings with this digitally created environment. And this is, again, going back to some examples of how this can be used, that virtual plant tour I mentioned before. Also, it's very effective for training new employees. All right, let's talk briefly about the risks of AI that I mentioned earlier, talking about crises that we're going to be seeing in 2024. If you look on this slide, you see the gentleman on the left, and he has used AI technology to transform his appearance to look like the woman on the right. Also, by the way, he has the capability to change his voice to sound like a woman's. So to go from this gentleman speaking, saying something inflammatory, suddenly it's out there in the public domain, and it appears to be this woman saying this. This can be particularly difficult for those in the public eye, politicians. Imagine a deep fake, as we call them, of a politician just before an election saying something really offensive, or perhaps appearing to be intoxicated and falling down. These can happen. They are happening today. And you can bet that TikTok probably has many ideas or many videos on how you can do it. So yes, it's still not mainstream, but the potential is certainly there. And imagine, yes, it's mostly celebrities and politicians that are the targets today, but imagine if your leader, your president, your board, somebody from your board of directors, imagine if they're targeted and the impact it could have on your organization. All right, here's what's important to understand. AI doesn't know if the info it's gathered is true or false. It doesn't think. It just gathers a lot of information. And misinformation is significant right now. And a lot of times, these are not intended. They come in the form of what's called hallucinations. And hallucinations is where AI may pull some information that's not accurate and they present it to you. So it's actually false. And that is considered an hallucination. It's made up by somebody somewhere, but AI they don't have the ability to make that judgment call. So they gather it and put it out there, and it is picked up, unfortunately, and used. So what can we do to ensure the accuracy of the information we're disseminating? It's really important. You follow up, you do research, independent research with third parties outside of AI to determine whether it's legitimate. So if ChatGPT or any of these tools give you statistics and they say it came from a particular publication, go look at the publication, see if that is in fact what the publication did share. So those are ways that you can help protect yourself and your organization from sharing misinformation. Okay, legal risks. They can be among the most detrimental and the most costly. I will not get into all of these, but data privacy is probably number one. This is a huge risk, and we must be really careful when we are putting information out there via AI, because when you share information with ChatGPT, for example, That information is now available to pretty much everyone out there. So you have to be very cautious when you are entering confidential information about your organization. If you're an association, your members' privacy is so important. You don't want to include their names or their home addresses, for example. These are ways that you can protect yourself and those you serve from having that data revealed. So intellectual property, that is more like you ask an AI tool to write a white paper. Can you be sure that white paper was not actually taken verbatim from a white paper that had already been published? You need to do that research and double check. Discrimination. AI has built-in biases, and that's based on human biases because that's what AI is built on, is data that's gathered from human sources. So important to keep that in mind. And then insurance, just make sure that, if you are using AI often, if you're using it to disseminate a lot of information that could put you at risk, you may want to consider insurance. Okay. Last thing I want to say really about the deep fakes and AI related crises. They must be countered before they take hold. And this goes back to monitoring. You're looking for those risks. You see something out there, you know it's not true, it's about your organization. You need to respond quickly and firmly. It demonstrates your accountability and your commitment to transparency. And any delays in communication are going to lead to speculation and more disinformation. All right, trend 3, data-driven and personalized content marketing. So what is that exactly? It's the creation and sharing of online materials. And as you can see some examples here, video blogs, social media, does not explicitly promote the brand. It's the idea is to get people interested in your products or services. And personalized content marketing is where you create a unique experience using specific data and information about your customer. So 2024 is the year of creating that meaningful, interactive, and personalized content experience. And it's really important that you're aligning your marketing strategy with your customer's buying journey. A lot of times we miss the mark. We're more focused on what we think the strategy should be, and not really looking at what our customers or clients or whomever that we're trying to take on this journey, what their interests are. So reduce time. You can do that with data-driven and personalized content, but you got to make sure again that it's resonating. If it's not resonating, what a waste, right? So increase your ROI. This is something else that it helps you do. Again, going back to that, generating that meaningful engagement. Here are some examples of data-driven content marketing. I won't spend a lot of time on these, but these are really, again, driven by listening to the audience and knowing where their interests lie, and then building the strategy around that. So with data and analytics-based research, the marketing strategy platform will give you the content that you need to create those first page rankings, search engine optimization, and drive those outcomes you're looking for. You'll also have a prioritized list of content that you can create, and that's going to be very helpful for you as you identify gaps. Perhaps your competitors are not talking about this, and you know it's something that the target audience for both you and that competitor is interested in. this is an opportunity for you. And then use the data. You can understand their preferences and their behaviors and base your messaging on that. All right, digital advertising, trend number 4. Okay, you can reach your target audience through personalized ads. It is really growing this year. We're seeing already the interest in digital advertising. Some examples of how you can use it. Geofencing. Imagine that your target audience is attending a conference. You can actually create this a virtual fence, if you will, around the area where this event is being held. And you can then you can send them target messaging, target advertising. And that's a really great way to grab folks while they're there. Hey, hope you're enjoying the convention. Stop by our booth over here. Great opportunities there. Another thing is lookalike audience, and I want to explain what this is briefly. A lookalike audience is a group of people who are not yet your customers or your clients, but they possess the same types of behaviors and interests that your existing customer or client base has. So they're similar. So those are great opportunities. You may want to target them. All right, digital advertising for workforce and recruitment. Here's another great way you can use digital advertising to reach out to those potential employees. And here's a good example from American Concrete Pumping Association. Here are some more digital advertising examples. These were a lot of fun, and these were created as part of a campaign by IGGA, where they were sending messaging. They were targeting a geographic area. Remember, mentioned that geofencing. It was in the greater Phoenix, Arizona area. And this was an extremely successful campaign. And again, we had a lot of fun with this one. Trend number 5, sustainability and purpose-driven marketing. So I think the thing to point out here is that the U.S. Department of Transportation has developed a strategic plan for climate and sustainability. And it's really important to understand we have federal organizations who are paving the way and telling us these are our expectations. Here's what we are building. The FHWA with their climate challenge is another example. All right, what is purpose-driven marketing? This is about communicating your organization's purpose, your reason for being, and that's beyond just making money, right? So it's a desire to make a positive impact on the world, and it can involve social, environmental, or community-focused goals. So resiliency and longevity in sustainability communications. Here are some great examples of some graphics designed for American Concrete Pavement Association. They really were created in a way that's very eye-catching and informative at the same time. So again, looking at using these messaging in your communications, how can you deliver the message in a way that's going to really resonate? Trend 6, public relations. Okay, it continues to be a great way to reach audiences. It offers that third-party credibility. This quote is a great quote. Love this, from John Roberts from International Grooving and Grinding Association. A couple of things that stood out for me. He said, "We are reaching our existing audience as well as positioning ourselves in front of new people. And PR keeps us positioned as thought leaders. Those are two very valuable results of PR. Okay, trend number 7, the power of social media. Okay, I wanted to share some of these statistics. I will not read through all of them, but I do have to call out the first one. Number of social media users as of this past January, more than 5 billion. And then I also want to share the last bullet here. Very interesting when we are looking at, we've got all these different social media channels and formats. It's really important to understand the average attention span of social media users on mobile devices is just 1.7 seconds. What that means is you've got to catch their attention immediately, or you may lose them. All right, so how do we stand out from the crowd? Use the right format and techniques based on the platform. LinkedIn is more for a kind of a business to business approach, whereas Instagram is very visual. So you want to make sure if you're using Instagram, you've got the visuals to go with it. You need to be authentic and engage in meaningful ways and have that purpose. Think about what your purpose is for every post. And how to write the engaging content. We've got a list of do's and a list of don'ts here. Include that call to action. You want to drive them to your website, to an article where your organization is mentioned. You want to make sure that they're doing something to further the engagement. You want to keep the posts as short as possible. Use your active voice. That means talk about it in present terms, basically. You don't want to give too much away. Get them to click on the link. Again, that goes to that call to action. Learn more here. And then you do not want to bash the competition, as tempting as that can be. It does very little for you and can actually end up being more hurtful to your organization than helpful. All right, what to post? Here's some examples of things you can post. Events, conferences, awards, visuals are really important. That's what catches those people's attention in that first 1.7 seconds. Industry tech trends, be helpful. Give them tips and how-tos. You can share content from others, and you do that, and that helps spread the love, so to speak. You share something they posted, you make sure that you recognize them. They may in turn respond, they may share to their followers. Again, it just helps continue to expand your reach with the social posts. Again, talking about tagging, mention members, customers, and partners when you can, and tag them. So ideally, they will engage with that post and they will share it. Here's a rule of thirds that we like to share. It's really nice when you're putting together your social media calendar that you kind of break it up into 3 different pieces. So roughly 33% of your content should be helpful. Talked about those tips, resources, guides. Another 33% should be about your organization. You've been recognized for something, you have a new product that you're launching, and then finally, fun and human. And this is where you want to use the opportunity to recognize your employees, any community events that you've done. Employees love this and they share it. Okay, how do you increase engagement? You vary your content. You tell a story. Maybe the next one you ask a question or dispel a myth. You mix image and video posts with text only. We have that in there. I'm a little mixed on that. I really like to have that visual, again, as that eye catcher whenever possible. Include a call to action. Again, mention that. Get them to take the next step. Get them to take that step to be more engaged with you. And then reply to comments. You don't have to do it right away or all at once, but you want to pay attention to what people are saying in response. All right, video. Yeah, this should come as no surprise, but video still reigns supreme. Very important to see here that 85% of us in the US watch online video content at least monthly on our devices, and more than half want to see more video content. All right, best practices whenever possible, when reposting or sharing somebody else's post, add commentary. Tell your audience why you're sharing it. If the original post is from a client, partner, influencer, never share without a comment. You can congratulate them. You can say, this is an excellent article by this client, partner, influencer, whatever. And then at the very least, just thank them, especially if they mentioned your organization. You want to share what they said about your organization, at least express appreciation. All right, LinkedIn. I won't talk a lot about LinkedIn, just to say it's very powerful, continues to be a very powerful business development tool. You can see 830 million users in 2022. It's the largest professional network. 61 million senior level influencers and 65 million decision makers use LinkedIn. Great opportunities for you, particularly connecting with those decision makers. All right, handling negativity. I talked about watching those comments and responding to them. Some of them may be negative. If they are, you don't ignore it. You don't respond with the same tone. So if their comment is very nasty, you don't respond in a nasty tone yourself. You don't pass the blame on to somebody else. And you, again, kind of go back to ignoring the comment. You don't leave it unresolved. If they have a legitimate complaint, particularly, you want to make sure you get it resolved and that you're communicating that with them as quickly as you can. So you see here on the do's, respond quickly and respectfully. Acknowledge publicly. You can take the conversation offline if needed. If this is an issue that's going to require some back and forth with the person commenting, and you need more information from them, and they're extremely hostile and it's just escalating, ask them if you can communicate by phone, if you can communicate by email, or even in direct messaging or private messaging in the social platform. Again, monitor all the contents. You can delete a comment if it's particularly offensive, but consider not deleting it if it's just they're saying something negative and you have statistics that will back up your argument that what they just said was wrong. That's an educational opportunity. So evaluate whether to delete. You can also hide comments, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But engaging employees, more brands than ever are engaging employees on social media. This is really great opportunity. Employees can become ambassadors for your organization. The benefits of engaging them, that increased visibility, as you can see there, did a little calculation of potential audience reach, brand recognition, and traffic to the website. So it also can be very powerful whether they're creating original content or using templates that you provide to them. All right, very important here. If you do decide that you want to engage your employees in social, you need to develop an internal policy for how they should use social media. Again, this is using it from a perspective, your organization's perspective, not necessarily what they do privately on their own outside your organization. But it's very important that you do make clear what your expectations are. You should also post a public statement on your social media page, your expectations for the followers. For example, no foul language, no threats, something along those lines. And in fact, Facebook will allow you to even set that up so it will automatically hide those comments. Set rules, and determine you're going to have to perhaps block or ban some. But that's important. You want to make sure that you are in the driver's seat when it comes to the type of content, the comments, etc., that are appearing on your social media. Okay, to respond, to not respond, that's the question. Well, here is what we call a decision tree. This is a really great tool because it takes you through each step of what is the situation, and then what is your response, and then based on what your response is, which direction do you go, what options do you have from there, and it takes you through the entire process. So there are some times when you want to be careful about responding to comments, especially if someone is what we call trolling your site and they are offering nothing, and you try to engage initially and they just come back with more and more and more. Again, that may warrant not responding any longer and hiding or deleting their comments and blocking them. So those are all considerations you can take. Creating your own decision tree, you don't have to use exactly this one. You can create your own, but if you have that mapped out, it's going to make it very easy for you to just pull that out when you have a situation and just go through the tree and decide what your best course of action is. All right, recommendations for 2024. Optimizing your existing and future website content. Looking for that search engine optimization. Really important. And we're talking about a lot of competition out there today. Consider that ad campaign, geofencing ad campaign at your biggest trade show. We touched on that. Discuss how you'll respond to requests for your sustainability and equity action plans. We didn't really get into that, but this is, more, the expectations are there, whether it's through a potential customer or client asking you for this information, if it's a public entity asking for the information, you need to be prepared and consider how you're going to respond to those questions. Think about how you can take your content and go multi-channel on it. So, for example, you have a webinar. You may have a bunch of webinars. Think about turning them into podcasts. That could reach a whole new audience for you, and it's so easy to do. And then with subject matter experts, create abstracts to pitch thought leadership articles to the trade media. This is so important. Especially, again, talking about that competition. How do you rise above the rest? It's by thought leadership. These are great opportunities for you, and you could be missing them. So look within your organization, look at who your subject matter experts are on whatever topic it is, and develop a plan to start reaching out to those publications. All right, again, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We are available. You can find us on AOE.com. You can also find us on our social media platforms. And those include, as you can see here, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. And I also would like to suggest you consider checking out our podcast. And it's Advancing Excellence. It's a really very informative channel, and think that you could really get something out of it. We hope so. With that, I will end this. Appreciate your time, and I hope that you are ready to take what you've learned today and tackle all of those trends for 2024 and beyond. Thanks.